And joined once again by Mark Chardy, producer, publisher, director, czar of all things Chappaquiddick. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
You know what? Great. It's funny. I heard your interview with our own Lars Larson after we had you on here at KIDO Talk Radio. And one of the great things about Lars is he just goes so much more in depth, and there were so many things that a lot of us here in Idaho maybe we didn't pick up on either through the interview that I did or if they missed the interview that Lars did. Are you surprised at the success of your film so far, considering for many, many years it was taboo to even talk about it? And you have a lot of folks that, you know, their history books don't even mention something that was such a big moment in American history.
Yeah, I mean, you never know with the movie. And we just tried to make the very best movie we could. You know, what we really saw were the critical appreciation. We across the board got fantastic reviews. Even if the reviews weren't great, they were probably okay, and they're more of a, you know, maybe Kennedy defenders or you know, why now? What's the point? That kind of thing. But the people that did understand the movie and the audiences really enjoyed and appreciated, you know, the facts that came out, and that it's a very entertaining movie. So it was very satisfying to see the success of the film. And again, it's not a blockbuster. It's not Black Panther. It's an adult drama, and sometimes those are hard to launch.
What kind of man was Ted Kennedy?
You know, we took a week in his life, and you know what we tried to do by the end of that movie is really, I wouldn't say confuse the audience, but you kind of go back and forth. It's a nuanced movie, and we didn't try to do a hit job on Ted Kennedy. Listen, the facts alone are really damning, but you know, I think if you set up the fact of the family, the dynamic, both brothers were murdered. You know, he had a lot going into that weekend. You know, it certainly doesn't defend Kennedy at all, but I think that family name and trying to protect it, and just abuse of power. I mean, you get swept up in you know, all of that, and that's what happens.
You know, whether it was I think it was with your interview with Lars that you disclosed, or maybe it was Howie Carr, and again, Howie Carr is such an icon in New England. It's funny because I'm 50, but I grew up listening to Howie Carr and Jerry Williams and all these guys, and it's a very different form of talk radio than is done today. It was much more adversarial, much more local. But he said that the bridge was essentially the same, except now they put on guardrails. When you filmed, and you were at the actual Chappaquiddick Island, how did that work out? How did you make that happen, sir?
We tried to keep a very low profile, small footprint. You know, it's not a flattering story, and you know, obviously Chappaquiddick is known for this event. So we came in. They allowed us to shoot a couple days. We did around the ferry crossing back and forth, and the scene in the movie where you see the morning after the accident, you see the fisherman and his son find the car. That's the actual bridge. We actually digitally took off the guardrails, and so we wanted to show that geography of finding that car, and then him running to the dike house, which is only probably 75 yards away, and really that's, you know, Ted walked past that house and several others before getting his friends and coming back. And then obviously going back to the ferry landing, he said he swam across. You know, we've heard all other kinds of, thoughts on that. But he got back to his hotel in Martha's Vineyard and didn't report the accident for 10 hours. But he did call Hyannisport several times. So, you know, we put together these facts, and it's incredible to kind of relive, you know, what had happened. And, I think the audience members can make their own decisions on what he did and the choices he made.
Boy, that's easier said than done to create that type of ending in a film.
Well, you know, the movie ends on this speech, which is fascinating. It saved his political career. I mean, you know, the Massachusetts voters overwhelmingly voted him back into the Senate and had a long, long career. It definitely cost him the presidency. But when you take all these, you know, it's a moral, you know, it's such a kind of a moral movie. And Joe Gargan is his friend and attorney, you know, was making the choices and trying to guide him. And you think at the end that he's going to make a speech to resign, and he doesn't. He kind of becomes the victim in the speech, as if a Kennedy curse is holding over the family. It was amazing in the way that he gained sympathy from this speech, but when you really looked at it, and he was vilified in the press, but it didn't matter. It was for the voters. So it always kind of haunted him a bit, but, you know, he was able to have a long career in the Senate. It's a very tricky movie, and the people that like him, you know, obviously feel that he did a lot of legislative accomplishments, and, you know, it's a tricky one. I think you have to, you know, I think it's important to kind of, you know, show these movies and the good and the bad. By the way, it doesn't, whatever party, it's not a left or a right movie, it was about the truth, and that's all we try to do.
How tough was it for you to get financing?
You know, our company financed it. So we didn't, you know, we acquired the script. We didn't develop it. The script was out there. A friend of mine, Chris Fenton, was another producer on the film. He called and said, you know, listen, I've got a great script, but I have no idea how the town's going to respond to it. So we read it. It's about Ted Kennedy and Chappaquiddick. Well, we read it and loved it. And, you know, the people we sent it out to, because listen, if we couldn't cast it, we were not going to make the movie. And everyone really responded to it incredibly well. It landed on the Blacklist, which was the top scripts of the year. And we got a great cast. You know, we didn't have any huge star. Jason Clarke's Australian actor did a fantastic job, but he was pretty fearless in his choice. And once we got our star and brought on John Curran, our director, we were off to the races, and we didn't get any pushback on making the movie, setting it up. It came later once we got our distributor, Byron Allen, and he felt pressure from others outside to try to stop the movie. So it became a little controversial as we were leading up to release.
What goes into creating a movie, Mark? I mean, most of us think that you come up with an idea, but you have to have, and maybe not in this case since you guys finance it yourself, but you have to have investors and producers and sell the script and distribution. Is there any way that you can explain that to us here?
Yeah, it's a lot of risk. I mean, I've produced now for almost 20 years. You know, I did a lot of movies at Disney, a lot of sports films, The Rookie, Miracle, Invincible, Secretariat, $1 Million Arm, McFarlane, and all those were financed by the studio. So I had an overall deal at Disney. I left about 3 years ago. Everything that's going on with like Netflix and digital, I just felt like I had to be out there in a different way. And I raised private equity and felt like, you know, I keep my foot in you know, with the studios, but I want to make independent movies. And then it's just about finding great scripts or developing great scripts. And once you have the script, which is like your blueprint to a house, you start to build it. And it starts with the producer. You then bring on your director, and you try to cast the movie. And then once you have, you know, those elements, you'll kind of green light your movie, whether you're doing it yourself or a studio will. And you go off and make it. And then you hire this huge team. You know, you probably have 300 or 400 people on each movie, and it gets really big as you get closer to production. And then as you kind of finish your production, it kind of gets small again, and then you go off and take about 6 months to edit the film. So it's kind of a year project from start to finish. Typically, it's about 3 months of prep, 3 months of shooting, 6 months of editing. And then when you have your finished product, then you got to figure out who's going to distribute it, how much money they're going to put toward the marketing, and then, you know, slot it for a date. So it's a lot of work, but you know, it's fun. You know, again, it's not as glamorous as people might think. It's a lot of work, but I don't think I could do any other job.
Well, you're doing what you were born to do. You know, it's funny because most of us, we look at movies and how they're made by maybe watching an episode of Entourage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually, Kevin Conley's a good friend of mine. He did a documentary for me at 30 for 30 ESPN. But no, it's you know, when you cut all these scenes together, it's you know, you're shooting out of order sometimes, you're taking little pieces. It all kind of comes together in the editing room, and then you lay in music and all the other things that go into a film. And when you see things at different points, it's the first thing you see is a rough assemblage, which usually is almost an hour longer than it should be, and you start just refining it and shaping it, and that's what's fun. That's what I like about producing. You know, it's not one specific job in the movie making process. It's kind of like the chef in a kitchen. So I start with the idea, and then you end when the movie starts to come out, doing interviews like this, which I enjoy doing, and you know, you have multiple things going on. You know, we're doing probably a comedy next, so I just want to be really nimble in kind of the films I do, and just keep everything, you know, fun. I want to just be really excited about a script or project.
What 30 for 30 did you do?
It's called Big Shot. It was it was a story about a guy who, in the mid '90s, bought the New York Islanders. And what you find out is that he had no money. Everyone thought he had money, and he bought the team, and and did the transaction. And what he was trying to do was develop the area around the Nassau Coliseum, and basically he just ran out of time, and it became a huge scandal out in New York, and he ended up going to prison. And so we got a hold of this guy and thought it was a fascinating story. So yeah, we won an Emmy for it, and it was great. And we're trying to actually develop a movie potentially out of that story.
Isn't there a certain magic though with sports? And when you mentioned that you produced The Rookie, and that I don't know, maybe it's so ingrained in our psyche, but even a story, whether it's about the guy that was going to buy the Islanders or something else, just the allure of sports, and that makes digesting the business part or understanding the motivation of the business part that much more palatable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what. I played professional baseball, and the first movie I did was The Rookie. I mean, and I played with Jim Morris, the guy the movie's about. Played with him for 3 years, so I didn't set out to make sports movies. But when that one fell in my lap, I was like, oh God, I got to do this movie, and set me and our company on a course of doing a lot of sports movies, which I loved. I played, all my life. So when I was able to combine, filmmaking with sports, it was great. And now it's just a matter of, great stories just always come. They seem to be on and off the playing field, and I love true stories. So I just always want to be excited about the material, and I seem to be drawn to these true stories. Most of the times they're inspirational. A lot of times they're not lately. So again, just want to be excited and, figure you can find an audience.
Well, final question. How has the world changed when you have people, and I'm glad to see there are people doing a lot more documentaries. That seems to be the latest craze. I think the New York Times did a story on documentaries are really rolling now, but I mean, whether it's Amazon Prime or Netflix, the game changing so much that you've decided, to be a free agent, so to speak, to create your own empire.
Yeah, well, it was more out of fear, right? When Netflix kind of hit the scene, I was at a traditional studio, and the big studios are making less movies, right? They're making bigger tentpole movies, and those movies in the middle get squeezed, and a lot of these independent companies are popping up, and I felt like I wanted to be in that position. But, now Disney is doing their own streaming service like Netflix. So you're going to have these big pods where, it's all about convenience and disruption, right? If you want to, everyone's got a home theater, and they're like, the staying home and watching great content, and a lot of it's being, built. The trick is figuring out what's theatrical, right, that you go out and watch at a movie, or what you can watch at home. And, we're going to be making movies. We're talking to Netflix about things and Disney streaming, and you just got to, I always felt like if you make great content, you can kind of always survive out there, and that's really what I'm trying to do. And you watch the technology and how fast things change. And as a, content maker and producer, you just got to be ahead of the curve.
Well, Mark, we'd love to have you back, and we urge people to go see Chappaquiddick, but thank you for the education today and what it's like to produce a movie.
It's producing 101. It's a little more in depth, but that's it. So, well, listen, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Okay.
All right. You talk to that guy and you think, okay, he's a Hollywood producer. Then he played pro baseball. Then he knows the guy with Entourage. He produced a 30 for 30. And we go from that person to, go ahead, introduce yourself.
I don't know anybody except Kevin Miller, and that's all I need to know.
I met a person yesterday at the Patriots Day rally that said he loves the program. He loves KIDO Talk Radio, Kevin Miller in the morning, but when he hears you, he wants to punch his stereo.
I saw a woman walking on the sidewalk yesterday that looked like a walking thrift store. What's with the way these women dress nowadays?
A walking thrift store? What does that mean?
I just want to reach through the phone and punch the guy that said that about me. It's not fair that I can't defend myself against these radio bullies.
I don't know. I think if you tried to punch him, it wouldn't end well for you. Having seen both of you.
Meet me in the ring Friday night. That's all I can say.
Good morning, Liberal Steve. Welcome to KIDO Talk Radio. What can we do for you?
Good morning. I just wanted to stop all this criticism about the colleges getting more money, the tax get more money on gas, on food has gone up 7%. Power is going to drop itself a little bit. I mean, the Republicans who's
I thought you were running
for.
for. I thought you were running for governor.
No, I disavowed that after Alquist, the thing he did there at your little mission thing in November.
Oh, so
Any guy that gets up out of his desk and drives across town in the cold and everything and hands you a considerable check to go for that, I mean, he should be governor of this state.
And didn't want us talking about it either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. He didn't buy his wife an expensive SUV. He don't own tons of... Anyway, let's not go there, Kevin. It's just inflation. People got to quit complaining. I said tax should be $5, period, a gallon. I mean, when I was over in Bellevue last weekend, people were driving around like crazy all the way over there. They were bumper to bumper, housing going on. It's not slowing anything up. What it does, it gets rid of the riffraff. It keeps poor people in their place and lets rich people live how we should. Okay? So that's all I got to say about that. You stay fired up.
I don't know what you said.
I said it keeps poor people in their place when inflation takes over. I mean, come on. They got little 1,200 square foot houses going for $200,000, and then you got
$260,000.
Well, yeah, and then you got Johnny Go Lightly trying to get a special deal on it when they can't even afford the apartment they're in. They'll be back in the same chaos. Just let the rich live how we should, and the poor just keep it manageable, okay? You stay fired up, Miller. And I'm glad the feds now, CBD oil, got okayed by the FDA, huh?
Well, you and Tea Party Bob can agree on that one.
Yeah, that makes Idaho look stupid.
How dare you?
Love you, Kev.
Love you, Liberal Steve. Take care. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up next, are the gun grabbers moving into Idaho? And back to our topic we talked about last hour that Liberal Steve referenced, the high cost of going to college. Should higher ed be affordable? Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. KIDO Talk Radio, Kevin Miller in the morning. Coming up, Dr. Alquist. Before that, Barb in Sunny Slope, good to see you yesterday.
Yes, it was great seeing you yesterday. It was great seeing the whole event yesterday. I was so thrilled to be there.
Yeah, big ups to Terry Shepard, who puts that on every year.
I think that is wonderful. I really do. Being from New England, as you know, this is more of a big deal out there than here, but I'd like to see a bigger deal out here.
Sure.
It's a very important day. So I wanted to comment on your education issue. I have friends that are from Britain. And when they went to college, you went to college for what you wanted to study. So, for instance, if you're going to study physics, you didn't go to college and study also English, history, math, music, and all this other stuff because the schools felt that by college age, by having gone through high school, you already have your history and your English and your everything else. So they focused only on what you should be studying, which is what I think we should be doing here. I have several degrees. Some of them were needed. I mean, when I worked in chemistry, I had to have specific knowledge. Or geology, I had to have specific knowledge. Or as a paralegal, I had to know specifically how to research and the things in that field. But as you know, I'm also a teacher. And I have 60 credits in master's level teaching, master's level credits in teaching. And frankly, I have 60 useless credits. They are there was not one class I took that I could not have done without. Not one. But they padded it so that they would get more money because I was going to teach in a school. I went to one college and I only went there because I lived a mile from it and I had time. And so I asked if I could get a second degree. Could I transfer in? I was going to go for science, a specific degree in science. And I asked if I could transfer in my English and my math and my history and my sociology from the previous school, Notre Dame College, to get towards this degree. And this college, which Peterson rated as really low performing, okay? As I say, I was going there because I lived a mile from it and I was killing time. And they said, no, you couldn't. We have to have all the courses, the English, all the frilly courses, we have to have taken from our school. That is only to pad their pockets. I didn't do it, by the way.
Barb, thank you. We appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
All right, Barb and Sunny Slope. Traffic and weather together. And let's find out what's happening in your world. Good morning, Maggie. KIDO Talk Radio, joined by Dr. Tommy Ahlquist to talk about his campaign for Idaho to be Idaho's next governor. Sir, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you being in studio, phoners, whatever. We're going to go weekly until the end. And can you believe the end is almost near?
I can. Yeah, it's been a long time, but we're excited. I just spent the week out of the Treasure Valley, up in Coeur d'Alene for a couple of days, and then just over in Idaho Falls and Rexburg and Pocatello.
Right. Drove
back late last night. Got in around 2. It's going well out there. There's a lot of enthusiasm. People are really starting to pay attention now. People pay attention late, and it is time for this to get over. To get it on and get over. It's a few weeks away.
You take a look at, and we were talking about this off the air, the tone of the campaign. Your thoughts on people trying to decipher, and this is why we love having you and everybody else in, because we get to talk to you and hear from you one-on-one with, but, the idea of the ads going back and forth. There's a lot of noise going on, so.
There's a lot of noise, and I just trust the people of Idaho that are, they've had a chance to meet us. Some of this has been just authentic hard work, being out in communities and meeting so many people. It's Idaho. People want to shake your hand. They want to look you in the eye. They want to trust you. We've done a lot of that over the last 16 months.
Sure.
And I just trust that they'll be able to see through all this. It's politics is crazy. Every single day, almost every hour, there's something new. But I just always remind people the truth does exist. People are who they are, and people can see through that. I believe that. I really do. I believe in the people of Idaho. I believe this process is supposed to be difficult like this, and we'll get through it and then be able to do some things for the people of Idaho and serve.
We take a look at just the growth that we've had in the past few years. Wall Street Journal a couple weeks ago talking about Boise and the entire Treasure Valley. If elected, how do you handle the growth? And as we know we're Treasure Valley centric, but there's growth going on in Idaho Falls, Twin Falls blowing up. What's the role of state government in trying to manage that growth? And as your previous incarnation as a builder, you would know about managing growth.
Well, it's really a tale of two states. You've got areas that are booming, and you need to grow smartly. You need to be able to do those things that make sure that you have the infrastructure. And I'll tell you what, you got to keep Idaho too.
Sure.
That's right. the big fear I have. You look at all of the changes that are coming our way. How do we have conservative solutions to our problems? And we grow in a way that we can be proud of and keep us Idaho. But then you have the next side of the coin, which is what's going on in rural Idaho, right? You have jobs leaving. You have a lot of struggles of just getting by. And I hope, if you look, 200 incorporated towns in Idaho, and if you go down that list, once you get past 10 or 11, it gets pretty rural. We need to make sure we have solutions that start rural and then come into the more urban areas instead of the other way around, because that's how we've done policy too long in Idaho. And we've got to pay attention to Idaho, which is the whole state, one Idaho with all of our problems. I'll tell you this though, no matter where I am, and I'm somewhere different almost every day, you can close your eyes. It is the same exact problems that everyone's facing. It's healthcare. What are we going to do about premiums? It's education. Come on, let's do something different rather than just keep throwing money at this. You saw tuition go up just this week. And it's business. It's small business people that are saying, please, 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 pay attention to me. Pay attention to us. I had, maybe I've told you this, but I'll say it again. I had a woman the other day at one of our Moms for Tommy events who stopped me at the end of it. And she says, you talk too much, so listen to me. And after 16 months of getting into politics, I do talk too much. And she said, my husband's a school teacher. We have 2 kids. We cannot afford health insurance. And then she said, I opened a small business a year ago. And she said, oh, if the government opened and ran a small business for just one day, how different our lives would be. That's who I'm doing this for. That's who we're serving, and that's who we need to focus keenly on every single day. And if we do that, we're going to make a difference for the state.
Dr. Tommy Ahlquist with us, Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio. We were talking a little earlier about education, and somebody brought this up last hour. Whatever happened to vouchers? Remember the vouchers were such a big deal, and I know you've been in schools lately, and that's the challenge. We have all these people coming in, and to make sure their kids are educated and they stay in the state.
Yeah, education is the foundation of our economy, and if we get that right, K-12 and higher education, we will do so well for ourselves because we have a wage problem, right? You've got it all goes together. You got to have an environment that small business thrives in. Well, education's part of that environment. We've got a lot of K-12 issues, and choice will be the answer there. Choice will be the answer. In fact, I toured a charter school last evening over in Idaho Falls. Unbelievable. But the next thing is we need vocational training down into our high schools. We do not need to continue to push this idea that everyone needs a 2 to 4 year degree. But then, Kevin, I'll tell you, higher education is why on earth don't we connect our kids in Idaho to companies in Idaho better with higher ed? If you look at our enrollment, the problem with tuition is enrollment at all of our 4-year universities going down. When enrollment goes down, tuition goes up. I think I told you this one of the other times. I went down to spend a day down at Arizona State University with 80,000 students. Right. Guess what happens to their tuition when you have 80,000 students? It goes down. This is economics. And why are they have 80,000 students? 15 years ago, they decided to focus every single day on connecting an Arizona kid to an Arizona company and streamlining those kids there for the least amount of money possible. And the kids are the fuel behind that. We don't think like that here. We've got to stop that. If we can get our higher education rocking, it'll make a big difference to our economy, to our people, and we'll keep our kids here. We'll keep Idaho kids for Idaho jobs.
Dr. Tommy Ahlquist with us, Kevin Miller in the morning. The phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Now, as governor, you have limited problems, but as a talk show host, we kind of throw everything on our public servants. Not that we never do that here. Is there anything that you've thought of, and again, as someone who has worked within the business community, whether it's been in Boise or in Napa or throughout the Treasure Valley, you understand costs and such and fuel costs. We take a look at the cost of gasoline. We hear this all the time. Well, we've got the refinery in Salt Lake and the pipeline, and that's it. Is there a role for a public-private partnership to perhaps take a look at bringing in a refinery or some other source of fuel that we could have lower gas prices here?
Boy, that's been a problem for decades here, right? Well, we pay the extra money because it comes through that one pipeline. I think we've got to look at that. Now, I just yesterday, I was in Pocatello having a meet and greet, and one of the small business owners raised his hand, and he had done an analysis on fuel costs, because for his small company, you look at that, for every 10 cents, 15 cents that goes up, what that does to his bottom line, because he's so dependent on fuel. It is something we need to focus on. The government should be involved in this in a way that we tax fuel. But a lot of these are international, as you know, a lot of pressures. I'm really glad that we're not so dependent on foreign oil anymore. I think that we're coming back here, so there's a lot of good things going on. And when you look at the projections and forecasts, we know it's going up this summer, but it's not going to be nearly, at least the projections, what we had a few years ago. So not so dependent on foreign oil is important. And then locally, yes, figuring out some way that we don't have this pipeline issue, that should be something we look into. We ought to be looking at everything that helps our small businesses thrive, and certainly gasoline prices are part of that.
If elected, what's the Ahlquist vision for Idaho? Because we have all this growth coming in, still geographically challenged, but, we've got some hubs. We've got Salt Lake. We've got Portland. We've got Seattle nearby. What would be the vision, the pro-business vision for Idaho?
So, boy, I've never been asked it like that. My vision for Idaho after doing this as long as we have.
Been on the trail.
I mean, after literally meeting this, I don't know how many people we've met. My vision would be that every single Idahoan would be able to articulate what our state is doing for them. Every single person would be able to say the executive branch. We forget we have 3 branches of government in Idaho, but the executive branch of government is out working for them. And that vision would include they are fighting to get my premiums down. You can argue that in the last 5 to 7 years, no one's received a raise for anything because every dollar goes into health care. The swindle has been on the American people and the Idaho people too long, that we lead the nation in how we provide care to our patients and our people at cost. That will affect business immediately. Imagine all the small business owners out there.
Right.
If your premiums could go down, that immediately affects your bottom lines for your people, for your own household budget. Secondly, that education becomes the thing that we focus on. Vocational, higher ed, that we connect our kids in Idaho to jobs in Idaho and allow things to thrive. And lastly, that every single day, day in and day out, we're looking at small businesses, every segment of the private sector, getting regulations out of the way and helping those small businesses thrive. The deck is stacked against those small businesses. I'll tell you, the agencies of state government, one of the other funny things since I've started this, people say, you're naive. You can't run government like a business. Everyone said that. Baloney. baloney. Every one of these agencies should be run exactly like a small business, and they ought to spend their money, invest our money, like it is our money, that it is precious. We don't have a luxury in Idaho to spend taxes frivolously. We need to put those taxes to work. We need to make sure that as much as we can, we keep them in the pockets. We spend our money better than the government spends our money. But when we do tax, let's invest wisely. Let's run these agencies like a business. Let's look line item by line item once you get your nose under the circus tent and make a difference. So that would be the vision. Oh, and that's the same for whether you're in, whether you're in Coeur d'Alene or Bonners Ferry or down in Malad or Ashton. It's the same things for everyone. It's healthcare, it's education, it's small businesses, how we can thrive, and that's how we keep our kids here and let our state take off.
This is very easy because, I can tell you've been on the trail. Your throat's a little weak, sir. Dr. Ahlquist with us here. I'm going to try and fill some time here so you can get a drink. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up next segment, we'll have some phone calls. But what do you say to people in paid advertising or on the trail that question your conservatism?
Oh, we've said the same things all along. It's been the same attacks forever.
We have the talking points going on.
Yeah, we have the same talking points. Just quickly, I've always been a conservative. I've always voted Republican. Always. Now, on President Trump, which comes up all the time. It comes up all the time. Here is the truth. And I don't know, they want to spin the truth, but here's the truth. I voted early, Kevin. I was Marco Rubio's co-chair. I went to the Republican primary debates.
Sure.
I was into this thing. And the day the Access Hollywood tapes came out, I, like many conservatives, that hit me somewhere deep. And I voted that day by absentee ballot early, and I wrote in Marco Rubio, and I told the truth about that. That's the truth. On the donations, I think it's been fact-checked over and over again. The majority of my donations have been to Republicans. I've given to a few Democrats, but, that...
See, to me, though, when I hear this, you could use the same argument with President Trump. And I've said that to people, and I go, well, Donald Trump was having pictures with Hillary Clinton. That didn't seem to bother anybody.
Well, the biggest irony and frankly hypocrisy of a lot of this is the biggest criticism is about, hey, we love President Trump, but it's the same playbook, the same exact playbook that was used against him is being used against me by who? But by political insiders. I'm an outsider taking on I'm not running against Raul Labrador and Brad Little. I'm running against professional politicians with enormous teams. And one of the other funny things, I'm a huge term limit guy. It's huge. And everyone says, we have term limits. They're called elections. Baloney. Try to take on these guys. Try to take on these systems that have taxpayer-funded campaigns that have been in place for decades as an outsider. It's hard, and it's tough. But you know what? We're up for the task, and I think that's what's got them unhinged. They're unhinged. They're desperate. It's 3 weeks away, and I'm sure it's going to get worse. But you know what? You can't make up for hard work and a grassroots effort that's been going on for 16 months. The people of Idaho have met me. They looked me in the eye. They trust me. They know my values. My goodness, we went to 44 counties in 44 days and handed out a blueprint for an even better Idaho that's all conservative. Anyone that knows me knows we do what we say we're going to do. That my integrity, that's my life. But I don't have to sit and say I'm honest. Just look at my life. Look at the record of my life of getting things done. That's what we're going to do. We'll do it in a conservative way, and then people will decide. I'm not going to convince everyone out there. There are people out there that that's the one thing I've learned.
Indeed. More with Dr. Ahlquist next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. All right, we continue on. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. You had to know this was going to happen. Pro-Life joins us now for his one call. By the way, Pro-Life, I think you've asked Dr. Ahlquist this question, so it's in the issue of redundancy. If you asked him about the transgender, which you did the last time he was on, you're going to have to come up with a new question.
I don't think I did. What do you think, Mr. Ahlquist? Did I ask you about Jeff Stiller performing, a doctor in
North Idaho? Yes, you did.
Yeah, you did. You did last time.
All right. Okay.
It's pretty bad when I know that you've asked the question and you don't.
Yeah, that is pretty bad. Well, anyway, I'll ask you this question. If you became the governor, would you, by governor's order, stop all the baby murder in Idaho, preborn baby murder?
So as the only physician in the group, I'm probably the only guy that's delivered a preterm baby, and I'm as pro-life as they get. I think you look at I've adopted two children. Our youngest are two we adopted through the miracle of adoption. we will do anything in our powers to, when there's a viable path forward, to reverse Supreme Court cases that we don't agree with. And that's where I stand. That's where I'll be as I govern.
Well, but because no legislative branch, the Congress or any state legislature has ever ruled when legal personhood really begins, and I'm saying that it begins as soon as sperm meets egg.
And you've said that for years, Pro-Life.
Yeah.
We appreciate the call. Before we get to traffic and weather, we've got Terry from State College, Pennsylvania. He's mad because you didn't return his phone calls. Terry, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kevin. Good morning, Mr. Alquist.
Good morning.
Am I angry? No. It just helps me to determine, if an individual isn't available by phone, just to say, "Hey, I'm not interested," or
well,
I
led you
may
with
I
all.
finish?
I know, but I led you, so I'm apologizing for starting out on a negative term, Terry. So my apologies. Go ahead.
We had another set of circumstances where a program was developed for family preparedness, which we presented to legislators several years ago. They loved it. The Governor Otter was going to meet with us. Never did. So I guess my question is, how do we know you're going to be available if you can't return a phone call? And that leads over into, what about all the people that are concerned about the refugee resettlement? We can't seem to get an answer on that. So comment, answer, whatever. Would appreciate anything, I guess.
Well, first of all, I don't know you, so we try to be very, very good. In fact, very proactive of returning phone calls. So if you want to send us an email, I can talk to you about these things offline. I'm sorry that no one got back to you. That's not like our campaign. And I don't know did you have a specific question? I guess I missed the specific.
Well, he wants to talk about the refugees.
The refugee resettlement? What do you want to talk about?
There's a lot of concern about refugee resettlement, more specifically, the refugees that seem to come into the Middle East. Do they present a danger? Do they not? When we read national news, we can see that, our fears are legitimate. We can't, I'm understanding that you will not comment or have not commented on the refugee resettlement program in the state of Idaho.
We have commented it since day one. We are against that for safety reasons, but also even more important. As an ER doctor for years, I've taken care of people in the ER. We've got a poverty problem here. We have homelessness of our kids here in the Treasure Valley. You look at Nampa School District, the number we have. We need to take care of our own, but we also have safety concerns. We talk about it everywhere we go. So I'm not sure where that's coming from. And again, we would love to get back to you if you want to reach out to our campaign. We'll get someone to back you today.
Well, thank you very much. You have a good day and good luck on the campaign.
Thank you, Terry. And by the way, when Terry actually, that happened at a town hall meeting with Governor Otter, Terry walked up to Governor Otter. We were there, and he gave him the plan, and the governor said he'd get right back to him. So he's a little sensitive on that. It was like 9 years ago. But it is important to be prepared. Preparing you now for traffic and weather together. And we continue on with Dr. Tommy Ahlquist. About a minute left. What are we looking at for the last 3 weeks, sir?
Oh, boy. It's more of the same, I think. I think that all of us will be out there just trying to meet as many Idahoans as we can. I know we'll be back out and around with lots of meet and greets here in the Valley and headed back up to North Idaho very soon. And then the last part of this campaign is just going to be getting out the vote. I remind everyone out there that there are not very many people that make this decision. Around 155, 160,000 people will make this decision in this Republican primary. It's coming quickly. You can vote now early. So I'd encourage everyone to get out and vote. I'd encourage everyone to look at all of us and make a decision. This election is about the future of Idaho. This really is about the future. It's about our future, not our past. We've got a lot of things that are going okay for us here, but we need so much better. We need to bring that same excellence that exists in the private world into government. We need to demand transparency and excellence in everything we do. We need to solve our problems in a conservative way, and I think that together, with some new ideas and a fresh approach, we can build an even better Idaho.
Quickly, yes or no, would you do it all over again?
I'll tell you in 3 weeks.
Dr. Ahlquist, thank you.
Thank you.
You're listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.